Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, shapes and sizes. Welcome to the Piledriver Podcast with myself, Dynamite Dave Abbott, and the Surgeon, Gav Collingwood. How's it going, Gav?
It's going. I've had a week off.
Yeah.
And I've also had an injection.
Yeah, excellent. Great way to... Even better. So you've had your vaccination. Great way to start off 2021. So we're going to go straight into it tonight, folks. We are doing a recap of the World of Wrestling 2020. And I'm going to jump straight in with it, Gav. Obviously, at the beginning of every year, as all wrestling fans the world over know, WWE have their historic Royal Rumble. And in that was billed, brave billed, as the greatest match of all time, the greatest match ever. Now, I think, personally, when you bill something as the greatest ever, whether it's the greatest album ever, the greatest wrestling match ever, the greatest food ever, whatever it is, you're always instantly leaving yourself wide open to criticism, because it's always subject to opinion, is it not? Now, this match in general was Orton versus Edge. Edge made his comeback at the Royal Rumble. And obviously from that, the Edge threw Orton out of the Royal Rumble. And obviously from that, they went on to do the greatest match ever, which it wasn't a bad match, but I wouldn't say it was the greatest match ever. But the point being, it was good to see Edge back in a ring after, I think it was it 9 years? 7 to 9 years?
9 years
since he'd last wrestled. 9 years, wasn't it, since he'd last wrestled? So, and it was great to see him. I love the fact that he just threw the most boring person in a wrestling promotion out the ring straight away. So it was good to get rid of Randy Orton. And a fantastic start to 2021.
And MVP came back.
What else did you know about? Who was that?
MVP's first match back since 2010 as well.
MVP did come back as well, didn't he? Yeah. And obviously has since gone on to form the faction known as the Hurt Locker, which are brimming with WWE gold at the moment. And then the thing that hit the world over, the coronavirus, COVID-19 hit, which had a huge impact on all wrestling promotions, as well as everything and anything else in the world, unless you own Amazon. It meant no more crowds. No more crowds. So we couldn't have crowds for any house shows, for any of the flagship shows, such as Dynamite, Dark. You couldn't have any, for SmackDown, for Raw, for Impact, for New Japan Wrestling, and NWA, and so on and so on and so on. So it meant that wrestling organizations had to try something new, had to try something different. Some things worked, some things didn't. One of the things that really came to light was the cinematic wrestling match.
Yeah, there was a good couple of them.
Now, there were some good ones, weren't they? With we had Cena and Bray Wyatt / The Fiend. But I think the best one was probably the Boneyard match.
Yeah, that was
AJ Styles and The Undertaker. Talk us through some of that, Gav. What do we think made that the best cinematic wrestling match to date?
It was actually Undertaker retiring properly this time, not for the 50th time. Or it's just like, it's coming back just for a couple of shows. Coming back. It's coming back. I suppose he did come back. For
not the Shawn Michaels retirement, you mean? Yeah.
Well, Shawn Michaels retired for a while at least, but then he came back. No retirement is ever forever in wrestling.
It isn't, is it? It never is. But the Boneyard match was just it. You had two people there: AJ Styles, the heel, Undertaker, the face, and it was just absolutely incredible. It was well produced, it was well put together, it was well thought out, and you also had the Undertaker wrestling, knowing that a few hours earlier he'd heard that his brother had passed away as well, and yet he still proceeded. The show still went on, and it was just a fantastic match. And I think anybody and everybody who was involved in putting that match together definitely deserves a pat on the back, because some people were sort of rubbishing the cinematic matches, that saying that they weren't real wrestling matches, it wasn't real wrestling entertainment as we know it. But I think that shut a few people up. Gav, what do you think?
I was entertained. The only thing that could have made it better really was having Sting instead. Lack of Sting.
That would have been awesome.
Killed it.
Yeah.
Though, really.
Yeah, it did. And sadly, I don't think we're ever going to see that, are we? Undertaker versus Sting, the match that millions of wrestling fans the world over, the icon of WCW versus the icon of WWE, or certainly the icon of WrestleManias, if nothing else, the Undertaker. Yeah, very true. Yeah. Yeah, it's not like Triple H not to push anybody or get anybody over, is it? Do you know what I mean? So we had that. So we had the cinematic matches. So, and again, wrestling organizations had to be creative in 2020. What can we do to make the atmosphere there? So Impact had the idea of doing it differently to everybody else, not having anybody at ringside, not staff, not even any wrestlers, nobody else at ringside, which you might argue, one hand is we get to hear and see authentic wrestling matches as they're done in the training, in the performance centers style. For me, as a wrestling fan, I don't like it. I don't think it works.
It's too quiet.
It's like trying to listen to a football match on the radio without the piped in crowd noise. For me, it lacks that. And I think you do need to have something there in terms of noise, pitch side, when there's a match going on. Gav, what do you think?
No, I completely agree. Like with today's a good example. Spurs against, who were they playing? Sheffield United, is it Wednesday? United.
Yes, Sheffield United.
Spurs, yeah. Like for a moment there was no crowd noise, and you could clearly hear one of the players saying something was effing easy. And it's like, you shouldn't be able to hear that so clearly.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same with TNA in wrestling now. All right, you don't hear any sort of anything controversial, but there are clues and sort of little payoffs that competitors say to each other in a match that signals a change in that match, that something different or something different has to happen because of an injury or timing issues or whatever.
If it's John Cena, you talk so loud.
Well, crikey, yeah, John Cena just won't get away with that, would he? Full stop in Impact. So I think that's where, for me, I don't like that. I don't like a completely dry atmosphere in a wrestling match. So WWE and AEW decided to have the rest of the locker room and other members of staff around. WWE had this ingenious idea of putting perspex between themselves at the beginning of the year, between the competitors in the ring and the the crowd, which was obviously other wrestlers, at ringside. Which completely fell apart. Was it in February or March?
From the fans.
Yeah, but was it in February at the height of the first lockdown that we had in the UK, where they did this thing where they literally had the wrestlers who were the crowd break through the perspex and all join into a massive brawl in the ring.
Yeah.
And that was at the height of the pandemic as well, which was just absolutely bonkers. And then we had obviously various wrestlers in, not just in WWE, but in AEW and various other organisations self-isolating, coming down with COVID and things like that. But I think AEW has got it more spot on because they've had that consistent small crowd of tested staff members around since February, March time, which has worked, and I think it's worked really, really well. And then obviously WWE got even more creative, having the bigger budget, Gav. What did WWE unleash on the world to create some fan participation?
They unleashed Mad Max 3. Because they don't need another hero.
They don't need another hero. No, they did not unleash Tina Turner, but
thank goodness.
Was Thunderdome, the Thunderdome. Okay, so we got the is it the Thunderdome? Is it Thunderdome?
And Thunderdome directly ripped off from it.
Yeah, Thunderdome, wasn't it? Yeah, and it went without its teething problems, was it, when it first started? There were people. No, it wasn't stringently monitored. People obviously getting away with putting images of Osama bin Laden, Chris Benoit. We even had Kenny Omega making a cheeky appearance as well, and a few other AEW stars making cheeky appearances during Raw and SmackDown when it was on. It since then has been a bit more stringently monitored, and you know what, it works well. When it first happened, I thought, my goodness, this is going to be absolutely awful. But it's like most things, isn't it? You turn on, you tune in, you watch it, and you just get accustomed to it. You get used to it. So it's not been too bad. So then we move on later in the year. And you know, we had the WWE talent cuts. Which saw a lot of the SmackDown and Raw roster in particular, not so much NXT, but SmackDown and Raw roster go. And, well, Gab, I'll let you explain. Where did some of those superstars end up going to?
The ones that happened to get let go, even though WWE's making record profits for another year.
Yep.
They made their way to another promotion that's on Wednesday night. Or some other promotions are also on different nights as well, but mainly to a certain promotion that begins with A.
And it has another vowel in it with an E. And, W. So we had Miro amongst others.
So many wins they've had against NXT.
Yeah, exactly. And it has, hasn't it? It's made a huge difference. I mean, it was already a great franchise anyway, it was AEW, but adding a bit more ammunition to the likes of Miro, who I think has been absolutely brilliant since he's made the switch from Rusev in WWE to coming to AEW. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal. And you've also had the Good Brothers go to Impact, where they are now the tag team champions, and obviously we now know that AEW and Impact are obviously doing a lot of work together. So it's only paid off, I think, for some of these folks who were cut, and it's only really paid off really, really well. So we had the cuts, Gav, and then we had, as you've alluded to, the Wednesday Night War. Tell us more about the Wednesday Night War.
I wouldn't really class it a war because, it's not really been a war. Like with the Monday Night Wars, there was actually shifted every so often, but with this, it's just been AEW, NXT, just trying to bump along. They've had, what is it, maybe 2 weeks have actually won in a whole year.
I know.
And that's with being on a non-pay-per-view channel as well.
I know. It's incredible, isn't it? Absolutely incredible.
What it's called. Is it Network TV in America it's called?
That's right, yeah.
Or something? I don't do these things.
Yeah. It's been absolutely incredible. I mean, the work and obviously money and time that's been invested by, obviously, Tony Khan, Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, and all the rest of the talent in there as well. And, you know, that they've managed to keep, bringing up and coming talent like we see in the Dark Order, like we see with the likes of Anna Jay and various others, but blending that with the decades of experience of the likes of Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian. You've also got the sort of the heel management skills, expertise, the woman that you love to hate, Vicky Guerrero, in there as well, with her family's pedigree. I mean, you're talking someone there who has been brought up in generations of wrestling. So you've got this really, really good blend of young, up-and-coming, fantastic talent.
Then you've got
mixing.
Some legends there as well, like Jake the Snake of all people. You would never
Jake the Snake. Bringing along the likes of Lance Archer along with him. Do you know what I mean? Teaching him the rights.
Being a coach as well.
Dean Malenko being a coach.
You don't even realize he's there because he's like, he keeps away from the show. He's not trying to be the star.
No.
Like they seem to do with Legends Nights, for example.
Yeah, that's it. And then obviously the likes of Jericho as well, 3 decades in the industry. And someone like Cody Rhodes, who's obviously that was, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. So that altogether has it's really, really, really paid off without having to throw the money at something like that WWE does. For my own personal point of view as well, I do think out of the 3 shows that WWE has got, I personally think NXT is the better one in terms of when you're watching wrestlers on there, because I just think the men and women on that show give it a heck of a lot more than what they do on SmackDown and Raw.
SmackDown is a close second. Very close second.
Yeah, Raw is just literally... Raw's on its knees. It really is. It's just... It's so poor nowadays. And it's a real shame for someone like Drew McIntyre as well, who I think he deserves to be a champ with a crowd popping for him as well. So it's just unfortunate timing.
But when you see,
then as well, Gav, we had.
How did AEW,
sorry,
a tiny, less than a year-old show, beat Raw for a night that's on network TV? Like, it's
incredible, isn't it? It's absolutely incredible.
How would you?
And when you look, it's incredible, isn't it? It's absolutely. I mean, who would have thought that since the decimation of WCW and ECW, that and obviously TNA, which we now know, as Impact Wrestling, we were waiting for that show to challenge it, because as a wrestling fan myself, I've watched Raw for the past 3 or 4 or 5 years now, looking at it, watching it just declining in quality. Absolutely declining in quality. The creative, man alive, I don't know how creative keep their jobs year in, year out in that, because well, yeah, probably because it's just Vince, I suppose, yeah. But then we moved on later in the year, Gav, and we had the wages war on third-party services. Do you want to shed some light on the WWE war on third-party services? And as Vince wouldn't say, it's not good shit.
Yeah, it's just Vinnie Mac being greedy. He's already a billionaire, but he wants to drain his talent of every single income they can have.
How much money can you live to spend, really? It's just ridiculous, isn't it? Nah, never good enough. Never good enough. Yeah.
But, like, I just don't see why. What has he got a problem with them when they've got downtime doing something else? They're not.
Yeah.
They're independent contractors, not employees.
Exactly.
When they're not at work, they can do what the fuck they want.
So if they want to go online and play some games, shoot a bit of Fortnite or a bit of FIFA, or, play whatever, or endorse their own fashion or any other merchandise they've got, totally agree with you, Gab. Why should they? Because at the end of the day, they've still got to make a living. And as we know, sports fans, okay, when we watch our favourite, in the UK, we watch our favourite footballers, our favourite rugby players, tennis players, wrestling is absolutely no different. It is a very short shelf life, isn't it,
Mm.
as a
Except footballers,
competitor?
though, they're allowed to have their employees, but they still can sell their own rights in most cases.
Exactly. And I think certainly if you're in your mid to late 30s, I would imagine, and you're still in a reasonable condition to perform in wrestling, that is the time where you already need to have a plan B and a plan C. Because if you don't get a gig in media, or if you don't want to go down the media route, or if there's no opportunities in coaching, and it's not like you can just open up your own wrestling um, performance center at the moment in the midst of a pandemic, you're going to need to have something, aren't you? You need to have that something else to fall back on. And yeah, Vinnie Mac just literally, was he threatening to sue?
Threatening to fire them.
Threatening to fire them.
They have to sign this new contract, but you don't have to sign a contract unless your old one's expired.
That's
They
right.
can't force you to sign a new contract.
Yeah, that's right. And some wrestlers folded and went, see Baroni, we won't do that. And some said, fire me. Because some worked out that they were actually financially better off sticking on Twitch and doing their social media than what they were working for WWE.
Which says a lot about the contracts, really.
Of course it does. Of course it does.
Yeah,
it's like I say.
Staff.
Absolutely. And, and I bet some of these people are thinking after the first round of cuts, crikey, if we're going to another pandemic and it's going to be months and months before we get crowds back, am I going to be the next to go? Next without a contract.
Well,
and as
relies so much on house shows. That is their money.
Of course it is.
And now
house shows.
Got, 2-3 shows a week. That's it now. Network isn't
exactly
really making them much money.
Don't forget as well, you've got the payoffs of the European tours, where they tend to do the Raw tours and the SmackDown tours all over Europe, and the humongous controversial political cash cow that is Saudi Arabia as well. Which I'm sure makes the McMahon family have an even bigger turkey on their plate each Christmas as well.
They still have to do one of them because they're contracted to 3 or something.
That's correct, yeah.
And they're
hopefully this time they'll remember to book the flights home for the staff, but remains to be seen. But yeah, so you're absolutely right, Gab. It's like the life force of a sports club, innit? You need your crowds, you need your gate receipts, and if not, and if money's getting tighter, as a wrestler, you might be thinking, well, if I'm going to be next on the chopping block and without a promotion to work for, I need to have something to fall back on. So you can't blame some of them for doing so. Later on in the year as well, we had The Man, which I think is a ridiculous nickname, Becky Lynch, became a mother as well. So congratulations later on in the year. And for me, one of the best things that WWE have done in a long, long time. Not just Bray Wyatt's resurgence as Firefly Funhouse Bray Wyatt, The Fiend, which I think is absolutely incredible, but the return of Roman Reigns as a heel. Just works. It absolutely works. Him being this cocky, I'm the head of the table, I am the Samoan legend of this business now, which we all know is teeing up Rock versus Reigns at WrestleMania. But I don't know what your opinions are on it, Gav. I do love this version of Roman Reigns.
It's actually worth watching now. Before, it was just so hard to watch him because they were just pushing for me to be, I'm the great one, I'm so great, like me. But now it's just like, I like to hate you. It's great.
Yeah. And it was uncomfortable to watch, wasn't it? Trying to force him as like the new super face of the company, because
Royal Rumble the year before when Rock was holding up his hand like, what is this?
Yeah.
You could just tell it wasn't getting the reaction that he was expecting.
and having him as the one to eliminate Daniel Bryan from the Rumble as well, when he first came back, that didn't help any stretch at all. Then we had the demise of the Shield, and obviously he went off to obviously have his treatment for leukemia. Obviously went to self-isolate, naturally so, when you've been through some treatment as heavy as that. Came back as heel. Oh, yeah.
Fudge was in that leukemia treatment.
Yeah, and he came back and he was absolutely ripped. He just looked fit. He looked healthy. He looked confident. And I think
He looked like a champion.
He looked like a champion, and it's like when he's on the mic as well and looking to the camera, you can tell now there's just no fear. Boo me if you want, but I'm here to be booed.
For once.
For once, yeah. Gav, we had the speak out movement as well, the speaking out movement, which has obviously been a big thing on the back of the Me Too movement in Hollywood as well. But do you want to shed some light on the speaking out movement as well, which was a big thing early on last year in the wrestling world?
Yeah, I used to be a massive fan of Jack Gallagher.
Yeah.
Used to be.
Gentleman Jack.
Wasn't very gentle.
Wasn't very gentlemanly. So the young version of the guy who looks like Dave Coaches from Gavin and Stacey, Jack Gallagher, released, rightly so. And
I can't see that now. I can't actually unsee that image.
What's that, Dave Coaches? Yeah. Jack Gallagher and a few others. I don't even know what Jack Gallagher's doing now, to be honest with you, if anything. But there was a lot of controversy around some male performers being sexually inappropriate to their female co-stars, and in some cases racism was highlighted as well on there. Some have managed to bounce back successfully. The likes of Sammy Guevara has bounced back successfully. Matt Riddle as well. Unbelievably, in my opinion, Velveteen Dream has managed to get back onto NXT or was for a period of time. But it's just a massive thing, and rightly so. Do you know what I mean? It shouldn't be happening in any walk of life. And that was one of the big early controversial things, wasn't it, Gav, of 2020 in the wrestling world?
I was reading as well. He has actually broken his silence in October about what happened.
Right.
Basically, he was saying he got shit faced basically at a party and behaved inappropriately. Like that's an excuse.
But listen, at the end of the day,
it's not an excuse.
Yeah, I mean, no. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody is entitled to make mistakes, whether you're in the public eye or not. Nobody walks through this planet sinless. Everybody is guilty of making mistakes. Apart from you, Gav, of course. But everybody else, but I think for me, it's how you come back from this. Now, if you have done something, and you put your hand up and say, "Do you know what? I was bang out of order. Shouldn't have done that. I deserve to be suspended. I deserve to be fined. I deserve to be this, that, and the other. I should come out and publicly apologise, and I should privately apologise to those individuals as well." Then, if all is forgiven and all is accepted, then it should be a case of next strike and you're out, so to speak. And then moving on as well, we lost quite a few people in the world of wrestling this year, and some that we may not on purposely but forgotten about. I mean, the first one was Shad Gaspard, who lost his life
in the
I mean, he lost his life saving his son, didn't he? From drowning, and they sadly found Shad, crime time, Shad Gaspard's body a few days later as well. Any others that sort of stick out, or even that one in particular, Gav, that you recall?
The Finkel.
Howard Finkel. Yes, the legend.
Well, start of the year,
Of,
wasn't
yeah, it was. Rocky Johnson as well.
it? Trying to work out when it was.
Yeah, Rocky Johnson. Kamala.
Kamala, yeah. Pat Patterson.
Pat Patterson as well.
That was right near the end of the year, wasn't it?
It was. And Road Warrior Animal as well.
Laparca.
Not.
Laparca. The original
Yes.
one, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. We also lost Hana Kimura as well, Japanese star who was suffered from severe depression, severe mental health, and was bullied online, and was told to kill herself, and sadly she did. And she was well respected on AEW, no less, with Kenny Omega, the cleaner himself, wearing a shirt depicting her on it as well. And and obviously at the end of the year, which we touched upon on last week's show, the Exalted One, Brody Lee. So again, another year where wrestling sadly isn't kept away from losing some significant people.
And Zeus as well.
And who was that? Sorry.
Tiny.
Yes, Zeus. Yes, of course. Yeah, we lost Zeus.
We were watching Santa's Sleigh.
Santa's Sleigh.
Grandma's Sleigh.
Yes, Grandma's Sleigh.
Boy.
He might have been in that. Yeah. But yeah, Zeus was the he was a security guard, wasn't he?
He was a gas store clerk.
Gas store clerk. That was it. And do you know what the sad thing is as well? You look at all these, all these. It wasn't like any of it was some like drink or drugs. Like not looking after themselves physically. It was through just seriously tragic circumstances. In all cases, really. And but we're coming towards the end of the main event now, Gav. What was the biggest wow moment, in your opinion, of 2020 where you just thought, yes, wow, I am impressed?
Oof, good question. It's been a busy year. It really has been a busy year for big moments. I've got to say it's because I've been rooting for him since he first signed, obviously. But when Orange Cassidy finally got the win against Jericho.
Yes, absolutely. That was a great moment. I mean,
What
to
a
be
push
honest,
that gave him.
yeah, and it was. Do you know what? That was a great feud. Because that really went on for a few weeks. That was a really, really good feud.
Well, it's going to be Cassidy against Miro by the look of it as well.
I think so. Yeah, to try and get his boy back. Yeah. Now that he's Miro's young boy. For me, the biggest wow positive moment of 2020 has got to be, and he hasn't done much yet, so I'm hoping we see a bit more of him in terms of doing some action, and I think we will in the next few weeks, was Sting signing for AEW.
Yeah,
I didn't see anything on the rumour mill. So unless I wasn't looking in the right place, I didn't see anything on the rumour mill that Sting was talking to AEW. And then when he turned up, Winter is Coming, and he turned up on the Winter is Coming episode of Dynamite on the 2nd of December. I was just like, for me, Christmas has come early. Do you know what I mean?
Your camera's gone black, by the way.
Has it?
Yeah,
oh no! Oh no! Oh no! It's got rid of me. Oh well, I'm like Shadow Man. So yeah, for me, ending the main event for tonight was Sting for me.
I heard the rumours, but they did it so well. Like,
brilliant.
It didn't leak anywhere that it was going to debut, and that's amazing.
Absolutely.
For 2020, for it not to leak.
Absolutely. So there we are, folks. There is the Piledriver Podcast's take on the highs and lows and the roller coaster of the world of wrestling in 2020. Gav, is there anything that you want to wrap up the show with before we call it a night?
Apart from going on to our predictions for 2021,
Yeah.
A massive happy birthday to the -1 Brody Lee Jr.
Absolutely, yes, Brody Lee Jr., yes. Bittersweet birthday, obviously, because it'd be the first one without his father, the Exalted One, but happy birthday nonetheless to Brody Lee Jr., absolutely.
The youngest TNT champion.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely, without doubt. Gav, I'm going to make a couple of quick bold predictions for 2021. I'm going to predict... I can't really predict anything as far as WWE goes because I just don't know who's going to get pushed from one week to the next. However, I would like to see Pete Dunne as the NXT champion this year because I think he's one of Britain's most phenomenal wrestlers. I think he's absolutely fantastic. In terms of AEW, I'm going to go with it. The Lucha Brothers, the next tag team champions. I'm going to go with Hangman Page. This is a bold prediction, this. Hangman Page will be the first wrestler ever to kick out of the One-Winged Angel. He will also beat Kenny Omega for the AEW match. Championship.
I've got to say it'll be the same match as well.
Yeah. And I also predict Anna Jay to be AEW Women's Champion and potentially to take the title off Deeb, the NWA Women's Champion as well.
That would be good. I haven't really got any predictions towards WWE, really. Apart from, I'm going to say Vinny's going to call it quits.
Good shout. Yep, I think so as well.
He's killing his own product. Like, he don't care, but it's going to be a point where the shareholders think it's not worth it anymore. You can't
vote of confidence
by firing all your best talent.
Yeah, vote of confidence. Let's just hope that if it does go to Shane, that he doesn't bring back WWE Underground. Let's hope that stays underground, very, 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 very far underground. But yeah, any other quick predictions, Gav?
I definitely agree with the Hangman Page becoming champion. That's going to happen. But I want to say John Silver is TNT champion before long.
That'd be great.
And winning it with a discus lariat, of course.
Of course, he's got to win it with the discus lariat, hasn't he? Yeah, I would love to see.
Bold prediction for 2021 is CM Punk is going to appear on AEW and kick the hell out of Omega.
That could be a good shout, actually. I can see CM Punk switching to AEW.
They hid Sting so well, yet there's been rumours for ages about CM Punk.
It's going to be. Do you know what? That'd be phenomenal. And can you imagine when the crowds come back as well? The pops.
That's what they're going to for. They're not going to do it now. They've already done one.
No. It's going to be absolutely incredible. Bold prediction as well. I think at some point every member of the Dark Order will have some form of gold at some point this year as well. Yep, silver is gold. So Gav, that wraps up tonight's Piledriver podcast for me. Tune in next week. I would like to delve into the history, if you think, Gav, what do you think of this one, of the Royal Rumbles?
Yeah, why not?
The best and the worst Royal Rumble winners and just appearances of people as well. So next week, guys, the Piledriver podcast, a week before the next Royal Rumble, will be about the history of the Royal Rumble. So that's all from me, folks. Oh, yeah.
The greatest Royal Rumble, it was just for that. And I particularly love the honky tonk man trying to get Kane to have a jam with him as well. Just fantastic. Right then, that's all from me, folks. So tune in next week. Please get in touch with us on Facebook and on YouTube. We are also on Twitter as well, with your thoughts about what we may or may not have missed out, what we should have and should not have covered for this show, and what your thoughts were on the 2020 as well. So tune in next week, folks, and that's all the best from the Piledriver